What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. I was kind of hesitant to actually do this video for you guys just because it is basically a BMW channel and I don't know if any of you guys even care to see a Ford Fusion, but I figured I would film anyway because I assume someone out in the universe will probably need some sort of DIY for this. So let's show you what we got going on in today's video. All right, so this is a 2012 Ford Fusion SE 4-cylinder, but it'll apply to any Ford Fusion basically. We're just changing rotors on today's video, but this one has been a little bit more challenging because the car is a little bit older. It's got about 85,000 miles on it, and I just went through hell to get the rear rotor off. I'll show you that in a second, but I've already got the front driver's side and now the rear driver's side done. I'm going to take you along for the ride for the passenger side, but here's kind of what we got. So these are Detroit Axle brand. Bought these on Amazon for, I think it was $120. It came with a kit. So the front two, rear two, it also came with some brake fluid and brake cleaner as well as pads. I actually changed pads on this car maybe about 9,000 miles ago, but the rotors were so rusted on there at the time that I just didn't even want to bother dealing with it. But here we are today doing it anyway, and as you can see, we've got some drilled and slotted rotors. Why would you put drilled and slotted rotors on a Ford Fusion? Well, it was only like $5 more, so I figured why the hell not? So as I said, the front and rear are finally on here on the driver's side, but the rear was complete hell. The front took maybe 15-20 minutes, very easy. Since we weren't actually swapping the pads, I just had to remove the brackets, the caliper bracket, and then change the rotor out. And you know, I've dealt with seized-on rotors before, but this was a whole new level. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm pretty sure these are still OEM rotors, and this is what's left of the rear rotor. So you can see I've got a couple sledgehammers over there. That big yellow one there is a 16-pound sledgehammer. I've been hitting on it for a couple hours now with a regular hammer, a 2 to 3-pound hammer. That didn't do anything, and had to resort to using a 16-pound monster there. I hit it so hard, probably about 40 times, that I ended up breaking the entire rotor off. So there's what the rear looks like now. You can just see how much rust and junk is in here at this point. So it's been a disaster. Figured I'd show you what's going on and take you guys along for the other side. Hopefully we don't have the same issue, but if we do, you'll at least see what I had to go through. All right, so now we're here on the passenger side. We're gonna start with the front because it's likely going to be easier, and I just want to get this one out of the way first. So again, 2012 Ford Fusion SE, and it's a 4-cylinder. So these have 19mm lugs, so go ahead. I've already broken them loose and jacked the car up a little bit, so go ahead and take these off. Take the wheel off. Always work smarter, not harder. And if for some reason you don't have a jack stand, I've got my jack here, but I'm going to put the wheel underneath here just to protect myself in case the jack fails. It'll land on the wheel. So here is the condition of the stock rotors. Again, there's probably 87,000 miles on this thing, so I'm pretty sure these are still the original ones. But what we're going to do first is, we don't need to remove the actual caliper, but pretty simple to do. So we're just going to actually remove the entire caliper and the bracket all in one because, again, we're not changing the pads, so no need to really do that. But you'll see on the back side here. So you'll need to remove this screw here. This is a 15mm. There's one here, and there's also one on the underside, and that'll actually remove the bracket. All right, so this is gonna be a 15mm. And I've got a bunch of different extensions and stuff. I'm gonna break it free by hand first. There we go. And then I'm gonna break the bottom one as well. There we go. What's weird is the front requires a 15mm on these bolts, but the rear is a 13mm. So go ahead and remove these. So this is the bottom screw right here. And now that I've broken it loose by hand, I'm gonna go ahead and use the impact and get the rest off. So there's that one, and then this one up top. All right, so this is just sitting on here. Go ahead and pull the entire caliper off with the bracket. And at this point, if you only have one set of hands like I do, you can go ahead and zip tie this up here to the suspension components just so you don't put too much pressure on the brake line, or have a buddy hold on to this while you do the rest. So I'm actually going to use some zip ties. So to remove this rotor, we've got 2 Torx T40 screws that we need to remove. I'm going to use my impact to make sure you got it seated on there all the way. 1, 2. So fortunately, this one's already loose. And should pop right off, more or less. And you can see the rust that's inside of here. I mean, it's pretty bad. And this thing's just corroding like crazy. So the rear's worse. Here's a comparison of the old one versus the new Detroit axle. They're the exact same size. The new one's just drilled and slotted, as you can see. Looks a lot nicer, and I'll show you what this looks like. I mean, this thing is just completely rusted out. I'm gonna just use my fingers breaking pieces of rust off of it. So once you get your brand new rotors, it's a wise thing to spray it down with some brake cleaner. This one fortunately came with the kit. So basically, when these are sitting on the shelf, they start to collect dust and dirt and oils and all that stuff. So you want to go ahead and clean it. So I'm going to clean it real good with this and a microfiber towel, and then put it on and then clean it again. Don't be afraid to use too much. It's not possible. But you can see there's like a residue on here. It's nice to clean it all up first. Let's go to the back side. Try not to breathe it. And I'm going to clean this again once I get it on the car. I'm also going to go ahead and spray the hub down because I want to put some anti-seize on here just to prevent this rotor from sticking in the future. You can see there's some grease and stuff on it. And I've got this little sandpaper just to help clean it up. Alright, so now I'm going to use some Permatex anti-seize lube. Try not to get it everywhere because it does stick to your finger, so I'm going to be pretty liberal with this. So hopefully this will prevent any sticking in the future. And then just go ahead and take your finger and wipe it all in. Every area that the rotor is going to touch is what I'm putting this on. Even around here, around the actual hub. And now we can go ahead and reinstall our new rotor. So you see these rotor screws right here? We need to line this up exactly to match, and it's going to be, let's see here. And you can see 2 of the holes are a little bit different. That's where those go. Now we can go ahead and screw these back in with our Torx T40. I'm just going to give it one little ugga-dugga. Doesn't need to be super, super tight. Alright, now we can go ahead and put the caliper and the caliper bracket back on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my zip ties off. And go ahead and reapply. So if for some reason your caliper won't fit back on here because the pads are too thick, you'll have to either rent a compressor from like AutoZone where you can actually compress the caliper piston back in, or use a C-clamp or something like that. Fortunately, these fit right on, so no big deal for me. And then we'll go ahead and finger tighten our 15mm once you get it all lined up. Just in case you need some torque specs, here you go. So the front caliper mounting bracket that we're doing 2012 and earlier is 66 foot-pounds, so that's what we're going to do in the front. The rear, we are going to be doing 52 foot-pounds. And again, if you're actually taking off the caliper itself and replacing, and you need to take the caliper guide pins, here are the specs for that as well. So I've got my Pittsburgh torque wrench. This was from Harbor Freight, not very expensive. Got it set to 66 foot-pounds for these bracket bolts. Go ahead and torque it down if I can get this in here. Also, don't forget, if you happen to remove this little brake line bracket, go ahead and put that back in. It's a 10mm. All right, so that's a wrap on this side. I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up again with some brake cleaner, and then I'm also gonna apply some anti-seize on this part where the wheel will actually meet the hub. That way we prevent it from sticking next time as well. All right, so we got the wheel back on. Went ahead and torqued that down to 90 foot-pounds. Front is done. We're gonna move on to the rear. Do yourself a favor before you jack this in the air. Break your lugs first, 19 millimeter. Okay, so we've got the wheel off. Here's what the rear looks like. Same kind of thing here, basically. Same process as the front. I'm just gonna show you if I get into any trouble trying to remove the rotor, we'll cross that bridge. But again, this is gonna be a T40, and then the brackets on this rear is going to be a 13 millimeter. Also, just so you're aware, you can see my extension here. There's actually a hole in the back of the bracket here that allows you to reach the bolt. So it might be kind of hard to see, but it's there. Let's see if I can get you in here. So a little bit hard to see, but it's there. So go ahead and unscrew both of those, that one there and this one on the top right here, both 13 millimeter. Okay, once you've got those bolts removed, you can go ahead and move the bracket. So pull that out of there. This one we don't need to zip tie, we can just rest it back here out of the way for now. And then we can go ahead and take our Torx T40s off. Alright, so now let's see how stuck on this is. Yep, that's what I thought. Just the same as the other side, so we're gonna have to pound on this probably. There's a couple things we can do here. So some rotors will have a bolt here that you can actually thread a screw into, and it'll actually push against the base of the hub, and it'll actually push the rotor off. We unfortunately don't have that here with this configuration here, so what we're gonna do is, this thing is so rusted on here, I'm just gonna hit it with the hammer a couple times. You could use some heat and actually heat up the backside of the rotor, but the problem with that is you run the risk of destroying your wheel bearings that are in here, so with too much heat. Other than that, we can just take a regular hammer or a rubber mallet and hit the front side, back side, whatever you need to do in order to get it off. But the other side was a good indication that this is pretty much rusted on here, so I'm gonna bring out the big boy just so I don't waste my time, and we're gonna smash this guy off. So since we're gonna do that, I kind of want to move this. I'm gonna pull this line off of here, get it out of the way, and then what I'm gonna do is move the caliper back further and try to keep it from bouncing around so much. Alright, I think that's pretty good. Alright, so I've got a couple hammers. I have a regular hammer over there. I've got this slightly larger one. And I've got this big boy sledgehammer that's a 16-pound, which is likely what we're going to end up doing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by hitting and just kind of jarring right here. I'm going to try to hit in between the studs. If you actually hit the studs, you run the risk of destroying the thread, so got to be careful with that. I was using a block of wood, just kind of holding it here and hitting it in between. That way we kind of jar the rust and everything that's behind here. If that doesn't do anything, we could hit it here, but if we do that here, we run the risk of marring the surface, which at that point, if we're going to be removing it, doesn't matter. But if for some reason we can't get this off, then we need to take it to a shop. There's a good chance that you're going to have some pitting marks here from the hammer. Same thing with the backside. So we can also hit it from the backside, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of space here to do that. And in addition, we have this little rotor shield here that is kind of in the way, so we're not able to hit it on any of these sides. We can only hit it from here, so that kind of limits us as well. But I'm likely just gonna try with this one first and then try with the sledge. Alright, start off small. Got my little block of wood here. Beat it here first. I mean, you can see how much rust is coming off of this thing. I've already broken the wood a couple times too. So in between the studs. Alright, cracking at the other side for quite a long time. So this is likely not going to work. Something fitting on the back side. Yep. Just move on to the sledge. Just gotta be careful with the sledge not to actually hit the threading. Lots of rust coming off here. There we go. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. You see it move? Turn it. This side's not going to break in half, I don't think. Let's see. Getting somewhere. There we go. You can see how rusty this is back here. That was a lot easier than the other side, thank God, because the other side I literally cracked. I hit it so hard with the sledge that I cracked it all the way across here. So that was fun. At least this was a little bit easier, but look at all the rust. I mean, that's what happens when you don't change your rotors for 80,000 miles. Okay, so these are the rears. This is the original OEM one, and here's the new Detroit axle. They are the same size, should fit exactly the same. Pretty simple. Alright guys, so the reinstall process is exactly the same as the front, just in the rear. So the only differences, again, are the 13mm bracket bolts in the back. That's about it. So use that, use your T40 on the rotor bolts, and you should be good to go. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, please let me know. Otherwise, we will see you guys in the next video. Hope this was helpful. Take care. Thanks for watching.